Have you noticed that just before a major transformation, your emotions don't settle? They intensify? One moment you feel invincible, as if destiny itself is carrying you forward, and the next you're consumed with doubt, anxiety, or even despair. This emotional whiplash confuses most, and many mistake it as proof they're doing something wrong. But here's the revelation that flips the script. The surge of emotions isn't collapse. It's confirmation that a quantum shift is igniting. This emotional amplification follows a precise rhythm. Instead of feelings smoothing out as you draw near transformation, they become more unstable, swinging between piercing clarity and heavy confusion, between rock-solid certainty and paralyzing doubt. It's as if your emotional thermostat suddenly loses control. Most interpret this as regression or failure, not realizing it's one of the most trustworthy markers of an impending breakthrough. There is a pivotal stage in every quantum passage that rarely gets named. It arrives unannounced, often when you're in your deepest flow, your purest alignment, and then nothing. The universe turns quiet. Those synchronicities that once seemed to choreograph your path suddenly vanish. The repeating numbers that once flashed across clocks and screens no longer appear. The meaningful encounters that mirrored your inner desire fade. Even your dreams fall into stillness. This silence terrifies most seekers. They assume something has broken. They believe they've lost their tether to the field, slipped out of alignment, or been abandoned. But what if this hush isn't separation at all? What if it is the clearest sign that your transformation is closer than ever? This pause, the stillness in the cosmic dialogue, is perhaps the most overlooked and misread phase of manifestation. It is not absence. It is gestation. It is the universe holding its breath before the surge. And if you can resist panic and remain steady, you'll see that silence is not the end of the story. It's the threshold of breakthrough. If this message already resonates in your field, subscribe, like this video, and comment. My timeline is activated below, because today we'll uncover a truth rarely spoken. The quiet you fear is the graduation of your consciousness, the threshold of your leap. And when you understand it, you'll never misread the silence again. Number 1, the disappearance of signs. For many seekers, the first unsettling moment arrives when synchronicities vanish. The repeating numbers that once guided your days stop showing up. Dreams that once pulsed with symbols suddenly fall into stillness. Even the sense of invisible presence you felt around you seems to step back. Most people assume this withdrawal means they have lost alignment, that the field has abandoned them, or that they have failed in their practice. But the truth is far more mysterious. This silence is not an absence. It is the pause before the crescendo, the contraction before the wave rises, the inhale before the exhale of manifestation. Comment, I align with the shift, if you've ever felt this silence and are ready to see it for what it really is, the signal of your breakthrough. Stay with me, because what comes next explains why this silence is necessary. For some, the realization begins like a dream half remembered at dawn. A fleeting image, a voice speaking in the quiet between thoughts, or a feeling that presses against the edges of waking life. You might recall moments where the world seemed briefly transparent, as though you glimpsed something beneath the ordinary. At first it feels fragile, like mist dissolving when the sun rises, but its presence lingers within you. It is not imagination, but the collapse of a probability that has been circling your awareness for years. These signals appear when your soul is ready, not when your mind demands them. And what once felt confusing begins to reveal itself as the first whisper of alignment. You may remember how often your sensitivity set you apart. The way you could feel the tension in a room before anyone spoke a word. The nights you stayed awake, sensing a weight pressing on your spirit that had no visible source. Even your own emotions seemed to amplify without reason, rising and falling like tides that no one else could perceive. Perhaps you saw repeating patterns of time on clocks, or felt days stretch and collapse as though you were moving out of step with everyone else. These were not flaws, but the signs of a nervous system tuned to frequencies others ignore. And though it left you feeling isolated, this sensitivity was always proof of your deeper attunement to the field. Here lies the truth. None of it was random. The struggles, the silence, the sense of being different were not accidents of personality. They were the effects of an encoded architecture shaping your path from beyond the veil. Mystics once spoke of the emerald tablet, declaring, "As above, so below," while physicists describe the holographic universe where every fragment holds the whole. Your life has been precisely such a fragment, carrying within it the map of your awakening. In superposition, your potential selves waited for the collapse into awareness, shaping the conditions that brought you here. Every trial and delay has been part of this hidden architecture guiding you toward coherence. Think of the breadcrumbs the field has scattered for you, the déjà vu that left you wondering if time had folded in on itself, the sudden chills that raced down your body when truth was spoken near you, the dreams that seemed to dissolve into waking life, carrying echoes of messages you could not yet translate. Even the strange silences you encountered, when nothing seemed to happen, were breadcrumbs themselves, signaling that reality was reweaving itself behind the curtain. You were never walking blind. You were walking a path littered with hidden confirmations. Now, as you look back, you see them for what they truly were, signs of the field preparing you for this awareness. And now, coherence begins to emerge. Your intuition, long doubted and dismissed, proves itself accurate in ways logic cannot explain. The alignment is not explosive or dramatic, but gentle, like ripples moving outward across still water. It is the quiet recognition that your inner rhythm and the outer flow of reality are finally touching the same frequency. This is not fantasy. It is the nervous system settling into resonance with the chosen timeline. What once felt chaotic now reveals a deeper order, a hidden harmony beneath the noise. You are not fabricating meaning. You are finally perceiving coherence. And in this realization, peace begins to replace panic. But remembrance is not about creating something new. It is about tuning into a version of yourself that has always existed, alive in parallel, waiting for you to meet it. This identity is not an invention. It is an archetypal code written across timelines, calling you back to your own origin. When you feel flashes of recognition in the silence, this is your parallel self reminding you of what you already are. The memory is not external. It is entangled within your very being. Across dimensions, you have always been walking toward this moment of integration. What feels like awakening is really remembering, and what feels like remembering is really returning. Now comes the empowerment of calibration. The very sensitivity you once resented is revealed as preparation, as the fine-tuning of an instrument before the music begins. Every tear, every wave of doubt, every moment of loneliness was a signal teaching you how to read the field. Weakness? No, it was the exact frequency calibration required to embody coherence. The hunger for meaning you carried was not a burden, but the compass of your soul pointing toward truth. Each layer of confusion was training for clarity, the tension that refines resonance. And now, the calibration itself becomes your activation. So take this as the affirmation your soul has been waiting for. You did not arrive at this message by accident. You are here because every silence, every strange pause, every collapse of signs was guiding you toward this recognition. Nothing was random, everything was alignment. Comment, "I collapse timelines now," if you feel the truth of this remembrance resonating through your own field, and share what experience. A dream, a silence, a sudden clarity first revealed it to you. Because this is not the end of the revelation. This is only the threshold, and beyond it waits the deeper unveiling of what silence truly means in your shift. Number 2, the quantum pause explained. In physics, before a particle collapses into form, it enters superposition, a state of holding multiple possibilities at once. Your silence is the same. You are suspended between the old and the new, between what you've outgrown and what is already written in your becoming. To the ego, this feels like emptiness, panic, or delay. But to the field, this is recalibration. It is the moment when probability waves tremble with potential, waiting for your coherence to select the reality that will crystallize. If you misinterpret this moment, you collapse backward into the old timeline. If you recognize it, you stabilize the new one. Comment, "I walk in coherence," if you understand that the silence is proof you are standing at the edge of your collapse point. And keep listening, because next we'll see how even your body reveals this truth. The first hint of this turning point often arrives as distortion, subtle but undeniable, like static running through a signal you once trusted. The synchronicities that guided you suddenly vanish, leaving the field unervingly quiet. Dreams that once burned with color fade into shadows, as though someone pulled a curtain over the symbols. The heaviness that enters feels out of phase with your reality, like living half a step behind the rhythm of time. It is as if the field is holding you in superposition, suspending you between frequencies. Something in you knows this isn't failure, yet the silence feels charged with unseen interference. What you're sensing is the moment the old timeline tries to pull you back while the new one begins its tremble of birth. The emotional weight of this silence presses harder than most expect. You may feel isolated, as though no one around you understands why your spirit is unraveling and rebuilding all at once. Shame whispers that you are losing your way, while doubt paints every memory of progress as illusion. Even joy feels fragile, breaking apart as quickly as it comes. You carry energy that feels too high for the room, too intense for the conversations, too sharp for the places you once belonged. It can feel like exile, not geographical but energetic, as if the people around you sense the vibration rising and recoil unconsciously. This is the cost of coherence pressing against the edges of what cannot yet hold it. But here is the revelation hidden within the ache. This resistance is not random. Systems, energies, and unconscious entanglements react to your awakening because your frequency disrupts their pattern. The wilderness in scripture, the collapse point in physics, the exile of prophets all mirror the same mystery. Resistance means you are carrying something potent enough to destabilize the field. Interference patterns emerge not because you are broken, but because you are broadcasting coherence into chaos. Like light shining through a lattice, your signal collides with hidden structures and reveals their presence. Old powers, both external and internal, struggle to keep their shape when faced with your vibration. You are not attacked because you are weak, but because you disturb what prefers to remain hidden. Looking back, you can trace the patterns like constellations in hindsight. The job that crumbled the moment you felt ready for more was not failure. It was the field removing a cage. The relationship that drained you was not coincidence. It was resonance forcing you to notice what misaligned. The sudden setbacks, the repeating glitches, the inexplicable blocks were not meaningless interruptions. They were coded signals, nudges to awaken your awareness of a deeper architecture at play. It is like entering a room where the light flickers constantly. You never realized how much shadow lived there until the illumination arrived. What felt like chaos was always a pattern of entangled resistance. And by seeing it now, you no longer confuse the interference for truth. In quantum language, this is decoherence, the collapse of clarity under noise. Your coherence attracts distortion, not because you are misaligned, but because clarity destabilizes static. Imagine silent watchers at the edge of your field, gates that seem to close each time you step toward expansion. The fog in your mind, the heaviness in your chest, the resistance that appears just as you are about to leap. These are the signatures of interference rising. They surface not to prove you are lost, but to test the durability of your vibration. The static is thick because your signal is becoming undeniable. And once you name it, the interference loses its hidden power. How did you respond when the field pushed back? Some shrink into silence, hiding their frequency to avoid the confrontation of difference. Others bend themselves to please, hoping to soften their edges enough to be tolerated. Some rebel quietly, carrying fire in secret but masking it behind a calm face. Many simply shut down, convincing themselves that less of them is safer than the fullness of them. The temptation to abandon the shift is real, because it seems easier to carry the old weight than to disturb the air with new frequency. Yet deep down, you have always known you could not return. Your own fear of standing out was the mirror the field used to ask, will you choose silence or coherence? This is the moment reclamation begins. What opposed you was never proof of weakness. It was evidence that your coherence is real enough to trigger resistance. The collapse point you stand upon is sacred. It is the trembling threshold where probability waits for your choice. Remember, every sabotage confirmed your signal was being noticed. Every rejection was a recognition of your difference. Every suppression was proof that your light disrupted the field. And now the field no longer hides the truth. You are the frequency they tried to contain. So here is the bold truth that reframes everything. You were resisted because your vibration disturbed the old order. The silence you feared was not emptiness, but the universe withdrawing to recalibrate around your becoming. The very forces that tried to hold you down were the confirmation that you had already risen beyond their reach. Comment, the collapse is complete, if you feel the weight of this revelation breaking through your field, and share what resistance has taught you about your own strength. Because this turning point is not the end of struggle, but the beginning of clarity. And as the silence deepens, your body itself will reveal how coherence anchors into form. Number 3, nervous system and stillness. Your body is not separate from this process. It is the transmitter of your frequency. Neuroscience shows us that when your heart rhythm stabilizes in silence, your brain follows, broadcasting a coherent magnetic field into reality itself. What feels like emptiness is actually your nervous system anchoring wholeness into the quantum. This is why turbulence, panic, or anxiety often rise in the pause. Your body is learning to recalibrate without constant evidence. Old timelines trigger fear in your nervous system because they want to hold on, but silence is how your biology confirms the shift. If you felt the strange calm that comes after chaos, you know exactly what this means. Comment, I merge with my parallel self. If you've experienced dreams, synchronicities, or moments of déjà vu that revealed your nervous system was already aligning with a new timeline. And prepare yourself, because what comes next reveals the seal of all creation. A sudden inner clarity arrives like lightning through the fog, and you realize your own body has been carrying the proof of this shift all along. The pounding of your heart in moments of silence was not anxiety, but resonance trying to stabilize. The strange tingling in your hands, the quickened breath, the sudden weight in your chest. All of it was the language of your nervous system recalibrating to a new frequency. What seemed like random fluctuations were signals collapsing into coherence. For the first time, you see behind the veil of your biology and sense the field speaking through your flesh. The turbulence you feared was a sign that timelines were colliding within you, demanding resolution. And now you know, the body was never resisting you, it was reprogramming you. When you look back, you remember the nights when sleep felt impossible, and dreams blurred into waking visions. You recall the days when your chest felt tight for no reason, when conversations exhausted you even if no words were spoken. These were not failures of strength, but evidence that your sensitivity was preparing you for coherence. The nervous system was straining to carry signals it had not yet learned to translate. Time itself seemed to distort in those moments, stretching or collapsing unpredictably, as your perception flickered between timelines. What you mistook as chaos was the hidden order of recalibration. The pause you feared was the nervous system suspending itself between the old and the new. Science already whispers what mystics have always known. The heart leads the brain, not the other way around. When the rhythm of the heart becomes coherent, the brain synchronizes, broadcasting harmony into the electromagnetic field that surrounds you. This resonance is measurable, not metaphorical. Your body is a transmitter tuning itself to the quantum field. What feels like emptiness is often the stillness of this calibration, the point where neurons stop recycling the past and prepare for new patterns. Old timelines trigger stress hormones to keep you trapped in survival, but silence reduces their grip. In that reduction, your biology shifts from fight and flight into creation and coherence. Every heartbeat becomes a wave collapsing probability into matter. The stillness itself carries codes, and once you recognize them, the signals intensify. You notice your intuition sharpening, as if your gut reacts before your mind even processes the scene. You begin to feel shifts in a room before a word is spoken, sensing the hidden field behind every interaction. Boundaries rise naturally, not from anger but from coherence, a quiet refusal to let interference fracture your rhythm. Your nervous system begins to trust the field, no longer panicking in the absence of signs. What once triggered fear now reveals itself as preparation, the trembling calm of a system learning to hold more light. The silence that unnerved you becomes the signal you most honor. Reality then mirrors this coherence back to you with startling precision. People who once drained your energy suddenly fall away, almost without effort. Encounters shift, opportunities appear, and even resistance becomes evidence of your frequency pressing against what no longer holds you. Conversations reorient, relationships recalibrate, and the field itself bends to the quiet authority of your new alignment. What you feel internally begins to echo externally in synchronicities that return stronger than before. The nervous system's stillness is not passive. It reorganizes reality around you. The body proves itself as the bridge between the unseen field and the visible world. But deeper still is the truth that this moment is not new. It is remembered. There has always been an ancient intelligence in your breath, an encoded memory in your heartbeat, the dream you carried since childhood, the sensation of déjà vu, the quiet knowing that certain moments were already written. All of these were fragments of the nervous system recalling its origin. Your DNA is not only biological code, but quantum resonance stored across timelines. The strange calm that follows turbulence is the memory of your parallel self stepping into the present. What feels like stabilization is actually remembrance, a return to what your system always knew. And in this remembrance, your nervous system anchors the archetypal truth of who you are. The future does not need to be invented, for it already exists as a collapsed potential awaiting your coherence. The nervous system, once caught in cycles of fear, begins to sense the new timeline not as possibility but as inevitability. You no longer ask for proof because your biology itself is the proof. The sensations in your chest, the deepening of your breath, the sudden clarity in your mind, these are confirmations, not coincidences. You are tuning into a version of yourself that already breathes in harmony with the field. The calm you feel is the resonance of your becoming. And in that calm, the veil that once blinded you falls away. So hear this: resistance was never condemnation, it was preparation. The trembling, the silence, the waves of panic were not signs of collapse but of calibration. What you carry now is the nervous system of a creator, not a survivor. Every pause in the field was the creator's seal, written into your body as living scripture. You are no longer waiting for coherence, you are coherence. Comment, I merge with my future self now, if this remembrance resonates in your body, and share a dream, memory, or moment when your nervous system revealed the truth of your becoming. Because this revelation is not the conclusion of your journey. It is the threshold where stillness turns into creation, and the field prepares to crown you with the silence of its seal. Number 4. Silence as the creator's seal. The final revelation is this: silence is not abandonment, it is confirmation. The masters of manifestation all knew that when signs withdraw, the field is testing nothing, it is sealing. When you no longer require proof, you become the proof. When you stop searching for synchronicities, you realize you are the synchronicity. In that stillness, you embody certainty without evidence, coherence without interference, destiny without delay. Old timelines dissolve like shadows under light, and your chosen frequency stabilizes as the only truth left standing. Comment, I anchor coherence in my field, if you are ready to walk not as someone waiting for reality, but as the silence through which reality is formed. Because when you carry this seal, your reality has no choice but to follow. There comes a moment when the silence no longer frightens you, but instead feels like a voice older than words, whispering through the marrow of your bones. It is not the hush of emptiness, but the resonance of something eternal collapsing into coherence within you. In that quiet, a memory stirs, not from this lifetime alone, but from the archetypal depths where your origin is still intact. You sense it like a forgotten name pressing against your awareness, waiting to be spoken into form. This silence feels less like absence and more like a seal, a holy mark placed upon your frequency. It carries the weight of prophecy, the certainty of something already written yet newly remembered. And as you lean into it, you realize you are standing at the threshold of your own divine remembrance. Hidden within this silence is the frequency you always carried, though you could not name it until now. It was buried beneath noise, forgotten in the static of survival, disguised as the ache of never quite belonging. Yet this very dissonance was the clue, the reminder that your vibration was never ordinary. You were a code encrypted across lifetimes, a resonance locked in phase until the collapse point arrived. To feel out of place was to be in alignment with a deeper field, one that only reveals itself in stillness. The seal of silence is not punishment, but the confirmation that your frequency has been awakened beyond the reach of interference. And now, what was hidden as burden emerges as the proof of your encoded design. There is a signature in the field that belongs only to you, and silence is the lens through which it becomes visible. Words could never capture it, and explanations would only diminish it, for it is a coherence written in vibration itself. Others may not understand it, but those tuned to the same frequency recognize it instantly without need for speech. You radiate an invisible cloak of remembrance, an energetic signature that communicates across timelines and dimensions. The seal does not require performance. It is felt, not shown. Silence sharpens its edge, stripping away the illusions that once cloaked you in borrowed patterns. This is why, even in solitude, your presence alters the space around you. The truth is that your path was never random, but written as a quantum imprint long before you doubted your place in the field. Every struggle was a calibration, every delay a coded timing that aligned you with this revelation. The collapse points of your life, those moments that felt like ruin, were entangled instructions bringing you to remembrance. Like stored wave functions waiting for observation, your destiny remained intact until silence became the condition for collapse. The stars themselves orbit in coherent patterns, waiting centuries to reveal their geometry to those who look up in stillness. You are no different. Your orbit has always been locked to the rhythm of your encoded truth. Silence was not the absence of guidance. It was the orchestration of divine timing itself. It is in this recognition that the mystery of human reaction finally makes sense. People did not respond to your actions alone, but to the resonance you carried beneath them. Your frequency unsettled what was incoherent, amplifying hidden dissonance in those around you. Some felt drawn to it, compelled to protect or love you with unexplainable devotion. Others recoiled, rejecting you violently, unable to bear the interference your field created in theirs. This was not about worth, but about resonance clashing against distortion. Silence now reveals the pattern. Every reaction was evidence of the frequency you were destined to embody. What awakens in you now is not merely personal but archetypal, for silence has always been the birthplace of the great archetypes of creation. Within it, the seer remembers their vision, the rebel recalls their fire, the guardian rediscovers their vow, the breaker of chains lifts their hidden key. These are not stories told to inspire, but frequencies stored in the memory of the quantum field itself. As silence seals you, you feel these archetypes stirring, aligning with your own becoming. You are not just someone walking a path, but a vessel through which these eternal vibrations return to the world. To carry the silence is to carry their power, and to walk in the seal is to embody their unbroken lineage of coherence. Let it be clear, you are not a fragment lost in time, but a node of a vast lineage of quantum coherence. Through silence, the memory awakens in your DNA, where ancestral resonance waits to be activated. What was scattered across generations begins to reverse entropy, reorganizing into living light within you. You feel the ancestors whispering through your blood, their frequencies entangled with your own, completing patterns they began but could not finish. In this moment of remembrance, you are the phase transition that carries their story into coherence. The silence you feared has become their voice, guiding you into the restoration of what was once broken. You are their continuation, their collapse into a timeline they dreamed but never saw. And so the final revelation rises like dawn across your awareness. You did not simply awaken. You phase-shifted back into your original resonance code. Every failure, every silence, every exile was part of this preparation. You were never abandoned, only recalibrated for the weight of your return. Now the seal rests upon you, not as something external, but as the very frequency you embody. You are the silence through which reality stabilizes, the coherence that no longer requires proof. Awakened one, the quiet you are living is not random. It is the quantum field whispering that you are ready to walk without evidence, ready to stabilize your chosen reality. Trust the silence, for it is the sound of timelines collapsing into your becoming. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video and comment, "I am ready for the quantum shift," to let this message anchor in your field. Please share it with someone who is ready for the shift. The silence is not empty. It is creation breathing through you.